Hi, next video. We're going to talk about dehydrating herbs in your kitchen. So I have a specific garden where I grow lots of herbs, and I like to, it's fall now, so it's getting to the end of the season, and before winter hits and they all go dormant for the season, I like to preserve them so I can use them in cooking and for medicinal purposes. So I have a little selection of herbs. I'm just going to kind of show you how I go about dehydrating them and how I store them afterwards. So I have filled some of my trays. I have a 9 tray Excalibur dehydrator. It's quite a large, we keep it on a different counter out of the way when we're not using it. And but there's lots of different models of dehydrators, and some ovens will even allow you to dehydrate. It depends on how low you can get your oven to go and if it has like a convection type fan in it. Um, I love the Excalibur. It was fairly pricey to get in the beginning, but we have had it for I think going on about 7 or 8 years now, and we use it all the time. And I will kind of explain to you some of the different things you can do with it, and do some videos in the future with some other things that you can use and make in your dehydrator. So for right now, I'm going to talk about herbs. So I have one herb that I have one tray, and the trays that come with it are plastic with a little plastic grid that comes apart. And so they can be washed. I think they can even go in the dishwasher, although we don't. We just hand wash the plastic because they are a little bit, I'm just afraid they'll break over time if they're in the dishwasher too much. But they scrub up with a scrubby really easily, so they're easy to clean. And so I'm just going to set it here for right now. And then I have the tray half filled with sage. So I have some sage from my garden here. And I just, for things like sage that has big leaves, I just pinch the leaves off and lay them on here. Now they can touch each other, so you want to, fit as much as you can. I already rinsed these off and just kind of blotted them dry so they weren't drippy. Um, Sometimes you still find some little bits on there because I organically garden, so there's leaves that I mulch with and things like that. Um, but I just set them on here, and you don't want to like overlap them. You don't want them lay like more than one layer, but they can touch because they will shrink as they dry. So you don't really have to worry about overcrowding. You just don't want them to sit on top of each other, or they won't fully dehydrate. And if you don't fully dehydrate them and they're nice and crispy with no moisture left in them, they will mold. So you want to make sure you get them nice and dry, which is why you really don't want to. So that's good on here. Here's another leaf. I'm going to pinch the stem off. And then I have a little bit of room left on here, so I'm just going to put some oregano. And oregano has little tiny leaves, so I don't bother taking them off of the branch. What I do is when they're dry, I can just easily like break them off the main branch and put them away. Um, and sometimes I even just do it as I use them. So you just kind of push it back in there. And then I have another tray of sage here. Sometimes, and then I have another tray of sage here. And then I had some chocolate mint, which looks like this. Most of it started flowering, so I had a few left that hadn't flowered yet, so I picked them. And so since it's not a whole lot, I also put lemon balm on the tray. I don't mind doing these two together because I'm going to store them together along with some chamomile flowers I dried previously in the season, which I didn't get very many this year. For some reason, my chamomile didn't grow very well. I don't know what happened this year, maybe the weather. Um, anyway, so I mix these all together, and I can add some dried cherries or dried blueberries and even some dried hibiscus leaves and make a nice little tea. Tisane technically, because it doesn't have any tea leaves, but a herbal tisane. So this is about how full I have this tray. And you really could probably fit more if you wanted to. I have a little bit more. This is lemon balm. This is the other, that's part of the mint family. I also grow spearmint and peppermint, but I didn't end up saving any. They went to seed really quickly. We had such a hot beginning of summer and then weird weather, and I didn't catch it. Well, I mean, I used some of it, but I didn't catch it before it went flowered to dry for the season. So next year, it's okay. Lemon balm and anything in the mint family grows like crazy. So my spearmint, my peppermint, and my chocolate mint, I grow in pots, and they seem to survive all right over winter because they're up near my house. Um, my lemon balm, I just have to constantly catch the ones that go outside of the main plant because otherwise I have it everywhere. Just put those little ones on there. Okay, and then I have another tray with some parsley. So I have a mix of flat leaf and curly. It doesn't matter which one. I put them together when I store them. They taste exactly the same, and you can't hardly even tell the difference when they're dried. But I just take the leaves off. For these, since they're such big, I don't take the little stems. I just take the main stem off. And then for thyme, which I have here, um, these are such little leaves, you can't really take them off very easily and they would fall through even the cracks. So I just lay them on there with the stems, and these can overlap a tiny bit. It's kind of hard not to. Um, and then when they're dry, you easily can just crumble them right off the stem into your jar or whatever you're storing them in, very easily. So it's not really a problem. So I just dry these right on their stem. Sometimes you have to kind of push to make sure they don't come apart. So I'm just going to lay these on here. And you just kind of lay them out. I have lots of thyme. Some of my herbs got humongous, like my sage and my thyme. Now, with sage, I sometimes keep a plant in the house in the winter, and just a small plant for if we get colds or any kind of illness where we're stuffy. If you boil a pot of water with some sage leaves in it, you can put just one little bunch, doesn't matter, doesn't have to be a lot of sage leaves, in a little pot of water, boil it, and then take it off the heat and put it on a trivet and be very careful, but take a towel over your head and over the pot and breathe in that sage steam, and it opens up and helps drain your sinuses. And now if my kids are ever anything when they're stuffy, they'll ask for sage water to breathe. So I usually keep a plant in the house in the winter. I have one growing in the ground and one growing in a pot, so I bring the pot in over the winter. But worst case scenario, my dried from my garden sage I can put in there and it will work as well, if you don't have fresh. But it's really great when you have a little stuffy cold. Okay, so now I have some lemon thyme that I like to use in cooking. It's got like a lemony scent to it, and I only had a couple plants, a couple stalks. It's not a very big plant because I grow it in a pot in the ground so that it doesn't take over. So I just put that on there. And then I have some oregano. Oregano also is the same thing as thyme, where it's got a lot of small leaves. So I just do it whole and then just take them off the stems when they're dry. Makes it much easier. And same with tarragon. This is tarragon. So I have a bunch of that. I'm just going to put a couple on here for now. But same thing I do. When it's dry, I just take it right off the main stem. And it works lovely. So that's all there is to it. So once you've got all your trays filled, you just put your cover on. If you have the type that's a rotary, you might have a cover on top. And then to dehydrate herbs, you want to do it at the lowest temperature you can. Here, the Excalibur has like a little guide. If you don't have a guide and you don't know what temperature, just look it up online. It'll tell you what temperature to do all different things at. You can find little charts all over the place online. So just, drying temps for, whatever it is you want to dry, vegetables, fruits, things like that. So for herbs, you want it at like 95 degrees. So you just turn it to where it says 95 degrees right here, where it's just starting to turn yellow. And you just let it go. I usually check it. I'm going to turn it off so it's not loud to talk over. But you basically just let it go. I usually check it at 8 hours and 12 hours and 24 hours. I usually let it go probably 24 hours. If some stuff is very big or wet, might take even a little longer. So I just wait till it's nice and crispy and dry. So that's all there is to it. It's sort of set it and forget it for a while. So I had so once you wash your herbs and get them on your trays, there's really nothing to it. I'm going to get this out of my way. And so I was just going to show you some other things that you can do. And there's some water here from washing my herbs. Wipe this up. So anyways, obviously these have to go for a while, so I can't really show you what they're going to look like. But here is some basil from my garden that I did about a month ago when my basil was ready. And I've already used some, but these are just the leaves. And I had different, there's a few stems in there. We tried to get all the stems out, but sometimes you can't. So anyways, what I do is I kind of leave the leaves whole, and even with the stem, a little bit of stem, it's okay. Um, there's a mix in here of different types of basil. I had some purple basil and some green basil. Anyway, what I do, since I do have the whole leaves and I just store it in a mason jar, when I go to use it in whatever I want to use it in, I crumble it with my fingers. So I'll just crumble it with my fingers before I measure it, if I'm measuring it, or before I throw it in whatever I'm making. But in spaghetti sauce, things like that, it's delicious. So I have a jar and I just label it. And then another great thing to do is peppers. We grow a lot of different types of sweet bell peppers. I have red and yellow and green, and sometimes I have purple, whatever. There's all different kinds in here. And sometimes I can find them for a good price at the farmer's market too. So I will buy them up when they're in season. And then because I can get them for like say $1 a pepper, or even $1.50 is a good deal, because at in the winter to buy a bell pepper at the grocery store organic is probably $3-4 a pepper. So I buy them when they're in season, or I grow them. These are from my garden, and I just chop them up, and they can be in pretty big pieces because they'll dehydrate down. Just put them on the tray just like I did my herbs, but I set it at a little bit higher temperature. So for vegetables, you set it at like 125-ish. So I set them at a little higher temp. And then I let them dehydrate. And then I just store them in a jar, and you get these nice little pieces of very dry bell pepper. Um, and I throw these in chili and stews. I'll rehydrate some before I make taco meat, things like that. So I use them all winter. We usually have at least one whole jar, and sometimes it doesn't last the whole winter, but usually it does. If I get more, it's always great. Sometimes we'll have enough for 2 jars, but this year, this is what we've already used some. Um, I think it's not quite full. I actually have some more I need to dehydrate this week that I picked the rest from my garden. So yeah, so I love doing peppers. It's one of the things we use every year. And then I've also done, like I said, I was going to mix the chamomile. I have a few chamomile flowers. I didn't get very many this year, but I just dehydrate those and keep them in a little container. And then I can mix them with my mints and my lemon balm and dried fruit and things like that and make a little tea. And they're really chamomile. And the other thing you can do, you could make a infused oil with the chamomile for like a balm for your skin, things like that. Works really nice. And so then one caution, peppers. So these are sweet, like bell type peppers, which are great to just do in the house in the dehydrator. If you want to dehydrate hot peppers, which dried jalapenos, things like that are excellent for cooking. There's no issue with doing it. I may end up doing some that yet. I have a bunch of jalapenos I need to use up, but you don't want to do it in the house because it'll be in the air and it will burn your mucous membranes. Your eyes will burn, everything, your nose, all that. So, and people will cough, and so you don't want to be 24 hours dehydrating something in your house. So I usually will go plug this in on a table in my garage or my covered porch if I'm going to do peppers, so that we're not all dying. But if you have peppers that are small and thin, you can do, this is what I do with my cayenne peppers so that I don't have that problem. We do, and we put them in a jar when they're all dry, but we just tie, because they don't all come in at once. We'll get like a couple at a time. So we just start tying a knot around the stem and hanging them. We just hang them on the side of our fridge with a magnet clip. And let them fully dry. And when they're fully dried, we stick them in a mason jar. And I use them for making pickles and for lots of other, if I need hot pepper flakes and something, I can just crush it up. Different spice blends, I might crush it up with a mortar and pestle or grind it up with I have a spice grinder just for coffee grinder for spices. So this is a way to do it if you don't have a dehydrator, or you don't want to do hot peppers in your house and don't have a garage or something. So this is one way. And you can also do things like bell peppers and stuff similar to this, I wouldn't use this kind of heavy twine. I would maybe use like a thin thread or dental floss, and you would take like say a chunk of pepper, or you could do um, pretty much anything that would easily dry in the air, and with a needle thread it through and make and then tie it off and make like a rope of them and hang them where they get plenty of air circulation, because you want them to dry fairly well. You want heat and air circulation, because if they don't have the heat and the air circulation, they will mold before they dry. So you want to make sure that that doesn't happen. Um, but you can dry things, you can dry in here that we've done all kinds of fruits. We've done sliced strawberries, and I used them in scones. They were delicious. They actually were fun to eat, just like dried fruit, chewy, yummy, but we use some in scones too. I've done zucchini and yellow squash because we usually get a ton of yellow squash, and I can't always use it every year. So we'll just slice it up into little pieces and dehydrate it. And then I can throw it in a soup, in a, a vegetable soup, or, rehydrate it and throw it in a veggie lasagna or whatever in the winter. So that's always handy. But it's a great way to preserve your harvest when you don't have room to freeze everything, or you don't want to can it. Um, Things like herbs and fruits and vegetables are great in the dehydrator. And you can use your dehydrator for other things too. I'm going to do some videos in the future, upcoming videos for like how to make fruit leathers in your dehydrator and how to make beef jerky in your dehydrator. Because we do that frequently. Can you hand me a tray? My husband's the cameraman. I'll show you. I ordered separately. No, the tray that goes through this, the metal and the right there, and one of the sheets too. So these don't come with the Excalibur. You can buy them separately. They're accessories that you can buy with them. But these are the metal trays that they sell. They are much more expensive, obviously, than these plastic trays. But I ordered them because I like these for when we do beef jerky, because we marinate the meat and put it on here and put these right in here to dehydrate. And then any residue on those plastic trays, you'd have to really scrub, and it's harder to get off that mesh. This, you can scrub with steel wool. They can go in the dishwasher. It's just much easier to clean, for things like meat, and anything that's really juicy, messy. So we like this for that. So I bought these extra for that. And then also these are like silicone Teflon. Whatever. They're not Teflon. They're silicone. They're silicone with like glass fibers, kind of like a Silpat, fiberglass with silicone sheets. I bought several of these to fit each tray. So these fit on top of the black trays. So you can just put it right on top here, like this, right on top of the mesh, just like that. And then this is what I use for fruit leather. So then anything that's liquidy that obviously would just go right through, you can put on here and it'll peel right off. So these are handy little things. And I know they make these even for other brands of dehydrators. So whatever your model dehydrator is, you should see if they sell these kind of sheets for them, because they're really handy for making fruit leathers and other things. I actually recently did I put some sourdough starter, spread it out on one of these, and dehydrated it on very low, because the lowest setting it would go like 95, for like till it was nice and crispy dry and all cracked on here. And then I took it and broke it up into a little jar, and I keep it in my freezer. And that way, if my sourdough starter for some reason dies, like when I get sick and I forget to feed it or whatever, I can't get it revamped. I have some that I can rehydrate and hopefully get active and not have to start from scratch again. So anyway, those little non-stick sheets are very handy for a dehydrator. So that's all there is to it. I'm just going to go turn my kitchen herbs on and dehydrate them so that I have them to cook with. And I'll see you at the next video. Good luck in the kitchen.